The Discover College Soccer podcast is sponsored by VIO. VIO is the #1 AI camera solution helping players capture college recruitment videos. Check out their new starter and family options by clicking on the link in the description or visit Discover College Soccer to learn more. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Joe out at Kansas Wesleyan. Welcome, Coach.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming. You graced our podcast about oh man, it's almost, believe it or not, it's almost been 2.5 years. You were one of my first, I think, 10 guests at your prior school. So we're 250 episodes later now, believe it or not.
Well, glad to be back. I didn't know I was in that elite group of the first
That's
first
right.
10.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
yeah.
Well, you're now at Kansas Wesleyan on the women's side, NAI program there. How long have you been there now?
It came in last March of 23, so a little over a year now. And have really enjoyed it. Excited to talk about it today. So,
Yeah, so what's it like coming into a program in March, right? Like in terms of recruiting, you're kind of late in that class, but I'm sure there's people who left and you got to scramble, but then you're also trying to do two classes at once because that's about the right timing. So how was it getting your first class in? What's it look like now? How did it end up?
yeah. Well, it was a challenge coming in March. At that point they didn't have anyone signed, so I had a contact with a few players, obviously, and so they kind of followed me here, and so that was great. But yeah, right now, honestly, I just now feel like I'm kind of caught up with where I need to be. We have a couple 25 commits already, starting to make that list of 26s and maybe jotting down a few 2027s that catch our eye to keep track of. So feeling pretty good. But yeah, that first coming in March, you're right, it's super late, especially in the women's game. And but we got a good group. Even though we came in late, we were able to pick up some good players. Our retention was really high this year. Everyone, the great thing about how we recruit is that we're really looking at people to come in and not just be great soccer players, but great teammates and want to be a part of what we're doing. So I think that's always something that sets us apart and helps us retain those players because for us the culture is the #1 thing. But excited about this 24 class coming in. We actually have our first team meeting, through Zoom coming up here on Saturday, and so excited to kind of get on, have our first, quote team meeting in person, right? Like
Yeah.
we kind of sees each other's face a little bit, and as we look to prepare for our fall.
No, that's awesome. Well, one of the things that I noticed is a little unique, probably, at least what I'm seeing around the country, unique from an NAI roster is the lack of foreign players. You're actually almost all domestic there, which is for NAI schools. Now, I know it's more on the men's side, but even now on the women's side,
Mhm.
almost kind of a rarity. So, where is it that you're going to look for players? What's your ideal kind of tournament showcase? Where is it that you're finding players and like to recruit from?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's really no one place we really look. We have people from all over. We actually have two internationals coming in this year. But even like you said, even compared to a lot of other NAIAs, it's not a very large percentage of the roster. So for me, it's more about finding the right player and person, like I said before, and whether that's an international player or whether that's a kid from Salina, which is where Kansas Wesleyan is located at. We have a handful of those on our roster. We have another one coming in, and she was kind of a really late addition. She kind of slipped under our radar for a little bit, but we're really excited about her coming in as a hometown kid. Um, and we also have a large alumni base that we recruit from. So we actually have a D2 transfer coming in because her sister committed to us. She was one of our 25 commits, and she was like, "Well, I want to play with my sister." So she transferred in, and her parents are both alumni of Kansas Wesleyan. And there's been a kind of a pipeline historically from California, Arizona, that area, and so we have a lot of alumni who have played here, back in the 2000s, and now they have kids that are about college age, and they're wanting their kids to come back and um, to Kansas and play, which I think is a really cool thing, and says a lot about not just the program but about the college.
Yeah, that is a unique but telling
Hmm.
component there, which is pretty cool. So, what about ID camps? Do you guys do any? Do your staff work any? Are they important to your recruiting at all?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we try to go to as many, especially the local ones, and we're lucky with where we're positioned at in Salina. We're pretty central in the state, so it's about 6 hours to Denver. It's a straight shot, so we go to a lot of camps there. We're about 4 hours from Oklahoma City and Tulsa, which soccer is really big in those areas, and of course Wichita has a big soccer community, and we're only about an hour, and then Kansas City's three, and I think we're six from you know St. Louis and Columbia, and Omaha, Nebraska is pretty close as well. So we don't have to travel a lot to see a lot of talent from a lot of different areas because obviously, like if when we go to Denver, we get a lot from Western states that come to those showcases. So we definitely like to go to those local ones, especially the Kansas ones too. Um, but we'll travel around. We'll go to Houston. We'll go to Florida. We'll go to California and kind of see, spread our wings a little bit and not limit ourselves to just kind of one pool of players. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's huge. And I think for us, we want to see players. It's one thing. Twitter has a great kind of recruiting. There's a lot of accounts and things that can help with that, and it's really easy to find recruits on field level or in CSA, but going out and talking to recruits, talking to their parents is something that we really like to do, and we'll do more of. We didn't do as much of it as we wanted to this year. With me and my staff coming in first year, we want to get our sea legs and get our feet under us, and but we're wanting to expand that. And we are actually running our first ID camp, and I think it's the first ID camp that they've had on the women's side for a while. We just posted about it literally right before I got on this call. So it's going to happen on July 8th. It's a pretty quick turnaround. I know that usually you get a couple months heads up before, but we kind of had an alumni who has been really successful in college soccer and just in soccer in general. That's going to come back and be a guest speaker for us and kind of talk about the college game. And so we just threw this idea together, but we're excited to offer something, and definitely we'll do more things in the future because one thing we definitely want to show off is our community, our Salina community, but our campus and our facilities as well.
Yeah, well, don't forget to post it on the Discover College Soccer website for our camp listings. But
Sure.
let's talk more about those facilities in the school. I'm sure there's folks out there not familiar. So, what was it that kind of drew you in to Kansas Wesleyan? What are some things you found in that first year that are really outstanding about the school?
Yeah, I think the two biggest things for me is the stability of the college, both from a financial standpoint, especially as a small, private institute. You see it all the time of unfortunately colleges closing down or reducing, cutting sports or things like that. So job security, that was a big one, obviously. But for me, it was also the mindset. If you go on our website and look at all the sports and all the success that we have, not just, we're not just a basketball school or a football school or a soccer school. Everyone, is successful. I mean, we just won the Commissioner's Cup for our conference, which is a really big deal. It basically, wherever teams end in the conference standings, right? You get a certain amount of points for every sport, um, and this is the second year in a row that we've won it, and we've won it 4 out of the last 5 years. So that just shows how much emphasis we put on not just a couple sports being successful, but everyone being successful. And a big part of that is our mindset. We want to be good at everything, whether it's athletics, academics, going out in the community and being involved. And talking about our facilities, we have great athletic facilities, but honestly, in our facilities in general are great. Our dorms are really, really great. But we just built new apartment style dorms, and we had two players. They actually opened this spring, and two of our players were in them. And I kind of asked, I was like, "Is the hype real? Like, are they really nice?" And I'm like, "No, coach, they're great." So we're expanding our dining hall. That'll be done by the time that it started this spring, and it's going to be done by the time that, students come back in the fall. Music department just got a whole new makeover, new rooms. The auditorium's almost completed. Criminal justice just got a brand new lab. So, we put money not just in athletics, but all over campus. Our plant ops guys, they do a great job of making sure that everything is well maintained, everything's clean, and landscaping it feels like a college and looks like a college when you walk on campus. So, more specifically on the athletics side, we have 2 turf fields. That's where we play. That's where we train. They're right next to each other. It's a great facility. Our locker room is right there. Athletes don't have to drive across town to, go to games or train. Like, they walk 5 minutes, and they're right there across campus at our facility. Our weight room's getting updated this summer. I can hear them right now, putting stuff in there. And it's going to be fantastic. And we're adding a full-time strength and conditioning coach to go along with that new weight room. So, just excellent facilities. I mean, that's, like I said, we get huge support for, they want us to go out and be successful. And on top of that, we take our academic side of things very seriously as well, because I think any coach would tell you that it's you're in the top 7 or 8% if you come in and play college, from high school. About 7 or 8% get to do that. It's even less of a percentage from that percentage that go on and play at the next level. So, we do have a handful that are always interested, but most, and no matter what level of college you play at, are going to be a professional in something else. So, our athletic department just boasted, I think it was a 3.23 overall for all our sports and everything, GPA for this whole year, not just a semester, but the whole year. So, very successful both on and off the field. And and I think, kind of going back to your original question, that's really what drew me here. It's just, we want to be good at everything, and we're supported to go and do that.
Well, let's talk about that academic success, right? I mean, it can be really hard for incoming freshmen to really, balance that. As a fall sport. You got to hit it right away, and you're trying to be successful on the field. You're trying to be successful in the classroom. So, what support systems does a school have? What do you, as the athletic department, do to make sure, students are successful both in the classroom and on the field?
Yeah, so I always tell especially my incoming freshman recruits, like, your freshman year is going to be the hardest year, because you've been good for a long time. You've been the top dog, right? You're getting lots of minutes on your club team, your high school team, all those things. And then you're coming in and everybody's good, right? It's probably the first time that most of our players have had to compete for a spot, because, like I said, everybody's good. So we help prepare them in that way mentally, because that can be a little disheartening when you come in and you realize, oh, I'm maybe not as good as I thought I was, or you had these great aspirations of coming in and being all conference your freshman year, right? Which isn't impossible. It's definitely possible. I've started true freshmen every year that I've been a head coach, and that's probably a trend that will continue. It's just harder to do, right? So we definitely help prepare them both, physically with, their fitness packet and all that stuff, but mentally as well, coming in as much as we can. This is what the game's going to be like, because, you're here for 2 weeks and you start scrimmages and competing, and it doesn't really stop till, October, November, hopefully December, going all the way to nationals, right? So, so it's a long semester. Academically, we have a ton of support. Obviously, we do study hall. We have this great program where we can track everybody's grades in real time. And so we get alerts and things if someone, struggling a little bit, or, doesn't do well on a test. And so we can maybe help get them some more support if they need it. All incoming freshmen, and all students have this, but for freshmen specifically, they have a success coach. So it's not their advisor, which everyone has. It's not their coach. It's kind of someone outside of that, to make sure that, they're doing okay, not just with grades, but just basic needs. Because a lot of times this is the first time that they've been away from home on their own too. So even, like, are you doing your laundry? Are you eating enough? Are you, you know where the mailroom's at, or where you need to go for student life, or if something breaks in your dorm, how do you get it fixed? That kind of stuff. So a ton of support on campus. We have a great ministry program as well because we're Methodist affiliated. It doesn't mean you have to go to chapel or do that sort of thing, but that's part of our heritage, and we have all those things for students who choose to participate in those. But we have chaplains for each team that are just kind of another resource there, whether it's for mental health or academics or just finding basic needs things. So and I'm sure I'm leaving something out of support that we give, but one of the commitments that Kansas Wesleyan has to any recruits that we're bringing in is, we don't just want you to come in here and be a student. We want you to be a graduate. So we want you to make sure that we retain you and you progress all the way and have a very successful 4 years here at Kansas Wesleyan and go on and do great things as an alumni, whether it's enter the workforce or go on and get an advanced degree.
That's a great way to put it. Well, let's fast forward. Let's say we're in October, we're in the heart of that conference season. Kind of walk me through what a typical schedule is going to look like for a week and for one of the players in terms of classes, practices, games, meals, all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, season's hectic. It is everywhere. It's showtime, right? It's the test. And so, for us, we train in the evenings. So we'll either train at 4 p.m. If because football is off, because we share our facility with football and men's soccer as well. Um, or 6 p.m. So that's kind of our training time. And we do that for a couple different reasons. One, that's when most of our games are. So it helps prepare the nervous system to compete at that time, right? And then you don't have to worry about missing class. We don't have any limits on what degrees that our students can pursue because of, practice time is at this time, um, and so that's a big selling point for us is come in here and do what you want, and you don't have to worry about missing class. Obviously on game days if we travel, right? But our professors are great about working with students that do miss, making up work or getting it done ahead of time. So and so, typically we have our first team will play on Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's a pretty typical schedule. We're training those other days, typically do weights on Mondays and Thursdays. And when we're doing weights, we're not really looking to, necessarily, get stronger. It's more of a maintenance thing. We're doing a lot of aerobic work and we want to make sure that we maintain that muscle mass. So it's more of active recovery and maintenance during that. And again, that's outside of kind of normal class time hours. And then, our CAF is open pretty consistently all day. There's a couple down times where they're switching over meals and things. And we have a couple different options on campus for students to go and eat outside of the cafeteria as well. So if it's kind of maybe we're lifting it at 2 and so the cafeteria is closed, they can go and grab a protein and go back to their dorm on the way there with an easy swipe of their meal plan card. So, or credit card if they choose to do that. Mom and dad can pay for it, right? So, I mean that's a pretty typical schedule. Our reserves play at least once a week. That's something that we're really adamant about. For me as a coach, I want my players to go and play. It's great to train. You're going to get better, but you need to get out there and get meaningful minutes. So our reserves will play at least once a week, and it's a fluid system. Just because you start on first team doesn't mean like you can breathe and relax. Like you've got to keep pushing yourself and being a great teammate and do what's best for the team, and of course perform individually. So, but that's one thing that as a coaching staff we're really adamant about is everybody gets a chance to showcase what they can do. Because at the end of the day, it's about what you do in the game and are you effective in your position and effective as a teammate. And sometimes, well, it's just like taking a test in school. Some people are really good at taking the test and maybe not so good at the daily work, and vice versa. And in sports, especially in college sports, it's very competitive. You've got to perform during the test, right, during the game. So but that's just kind of a general day. Usually our Sundays are or general week. Usually Sundays are our day off, and if we can get another rest day in there, then we will. But we're firm believer in active recovery and doing that. And we have our very own athletic trainer, Ivy, who does a great job of taking care of players, both, preventative injuries stuff, as well as, helping players get back to 100% that maybe picked up, a little knock or something.
Okay. Well, you kind of mentioned some support staff there with the trainer, but you've got first team and reserve team. So what other staff do you have that help out with the team? What other staff maybe in the athletic department that help out to help with both teams?
Sure. So on my staff, I have a full-time assistant coach, and we also have a GA, and in the Rodrigo, he's our GA, and he does a fantastic job. I would consider him more of an assistant coach. He volunteers a lot of his time to do and extra things outside of what his normal duties are, because he loves the team. He loves coaching soccer. So and Coach Mike, my assistant, he does a great job of kind of balancing everything and picking up players and what they need, and filling in the gaps for me, because I would like to say that I'm on top of everything, but as a head coach, sometimes things slip through the cracks, and so I have a great support system from them. We're a great team, and work well together. Besides that, like I mentioned, we have our athletic trainer, Ivy. She just does fantastic. We have a very nice system. It's kind of like making a doctor's appointment. They scan a QR code, they get their treatment time, they go in there and they get their treatment and get it done. So and she works with them a lot about making sure that maybe they injured something, she'll give them something else to do in weights that does the same thing, but maybe reduces the stress on whatever injury that or knock they have. And then we're excited. I mentioned it previously, but we're excited on actually adding a full-time strength and conditioning coach. And that coach will also have an assistant in there. So we're excited to have them because, as much as I think the players love to hear me talk, I know that sometimes they want to listen to somebody else. So to have that person in there, and that's their sport, that's what they love to compete at. We're really excited to have that as an option. So and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my wife. I mean, she takes care of a lot of the players. I mean, sometimes I'll come home and she has the players there, and she's cooked for them, or we have chickens in the middle of the Salina, so giving them eggs or something. So she's a great support system. She's actually a professor here at the college as well, so she kind of gets that. They get another support system there with someone from the academic side of campus, and several of them have had her as a professor, and so and they said that she's pretty great. So which I'm biased, but if they say it, it must be true. So
Yeah, well, smart man giving the wife the shout out there. We'll make sure to clip that and send it to her.
yeah, sure.
Well, let's just kind of talk about you as a coach. Kind of tell us about your coaching style of play you like to put together there, and maybe just what you're hoping with overall and the culture of the team.
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, the culture is the number one thing. We know we have good players, um, but we need to make a great team, and that means that a lot, with great players, sometimes that's hard to put the team ahead of yourself. But we've made one of the things we've focused on the most this spring is being all in with what we're about, and we're very pleased with the where we've grown this past year, both in a stylistic sense, the soccer side, but more in a sense of the culture and what players expect of the program, and putting players in actual leadership roles where they're responsible for driving the standards and making the team be what they want it to be. Because the great thing about soccer is that it is a player-centered sport. As a coach, once we get into a game, I don't have a ton of influence. I can maybe make some tactical changes, make some subs, give a rousing halftime speech or something, but the players still have to go out there and do it. I can't call a timeout or draw up a play or anything like they have to go out there and perform, because all of my influence comes during the training sessions. So the players, we really give them a lot of input in what we do, and we expect them not to just perform on the field, but perform off of it in what we want to see in the culture. Because they have big goals, and one thing we always talk about is we're not the only team in the country, or let alone in our conference, that want these things too. So what are we going to do that's going to separate us from those teams, and how are we going to achieve that? And so we really come at what we want to do from a very cerebral standpoint of, yeah, it's easy to say those things, and we might feel really good if we go out there and we're working hard, but are we working smartly towards our goals, and everything that we're doing, are we trying to achieve that? And we're going to fail. We're going to, come up short some days, and that's okay, as long as we learn from it and grow, and don't accept it. So, but with where we're at as a culture, we're not there yet. And for us, honestly, we never will be. Culture is something that you have to continuously work at and grow, or it dies, right? It gets worse. So that's the number one thing that we really strive to do day in and day out. And if we do that well, and we hold to our standards, our high standards each day, through our actions, then we'll do all the fun stuff that I'm about to talk about, right? The style that we want. I mean, we want it to be a very, very exciting style. We want it to be together. So whether, for us, our style is situational. We prefer to possess the ball. We prefer to build from the back. But for us, it's about finding where that space is, doing it together. And when we're defending, we all defend together, whether it's a high press or a mid block or a low block. We, as a program, we should be able to adapt and change things up a little bit, but stay true to ourselves as well. So one of the most common questions I get from recruits is, what formation do you play? And I think it is important to pick a formation and stick with it, because it's just more of a relationship thing, right? How to work with these different positions in your position. But for us, the style is the most important thing. So like I said, no matter if we play a 4-3-3 or a 3-5-2, you're going to see a very similar type of possession-based positional play style, that's together, exciting, lots of energy, and intense. That's kind of the descriptors of how I would define the way that we play.
Okay. Well, Coach, you've given us a lot of good info here. I'm going to end with one last question, and that is, if you had just one piece of advice to give players going through this college soccer recruiting process, what would you want them to know?
I would say ask hard questions. If you're not sure what questions to ask, there's a lot of great lists, online. But ask coaches hard questions, because you deserve the answers that they can give, or not give, and that might help you make your decision a little bit easier.
For sure. And you can always check out the DC_soccer Twitter account, the Discover College Soccer Twitter account, because I just posted a thread on questions, because I polled all of you guys who've been on the pod before and asked for your favorites, and that's on Twitter now. So go check that out. But Coach, really appreciate the time. Wish you the best of luck here in the fall season. And if you get down to any of the ECNL events down here in Bradenton, make sure you let me know. All right.
Will do. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's Matt from Discover College Soccer. I hope you're enjoying the podcast, whether that's on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I also wanted to let you know about the Discover College Soccer Study Table. This is our brand new online portal that is complete with a 14-part online course giving you all of the ins and outs of the college soccer recruiting process. There's also a wealth of resources such as checklists, templates. There's the spreadsheets that have every soccer program in the country, along with their coaches, their contact information, their social media information, some basic stats about the school, and more. Plus, there's an online community where you can ask your questions, share your wins, your losses, any questions that you may have around the college soccer recruiting process. It's all there at the Discover College Soccer Study Table that you can find at discovercollegesoccer.com/study table, and hopefully we will see you there.